correct, Jim? Do you want to start?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I just need a motion to open the Board of Trustees meeting of the Village of Bronxville for February 8th, 2021. Do I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
All right, the meeting is open. I do have a bit of a mayor's report. Just to share, the police chief and I have joined with the high school students a new committee to discuss issues, concerns, and create more of a connection, partnership between government, the police department, and our students. We've had several meetings so far, and honestly, they've been terrific, really positive, really productive. So what we have the students doing now is getting 2 people from each grade going forward. So this community doesn't die when the seniors who spearheaded it are out of the schools. So we're just really excited about the purpose and the continuity. Also, in true Bronxville fashion, received an email from about 25 families that want to get together and save the movie theater. And they have a great deal of support behind them. And I'm meeting with the leader of the group noon on Thursday. So kind of, again, our community in action. And just want to share, the loan program has given out over $400,000 to local businesses at, frankly, the lowest interest rate possible. And our smaller donation way, kind of a bit of a GoFundMe page, if you can believe it, on an average donation of about $10 has raised $27,000 to give to our merchants, mostly to help them all cover all those extra COVID expenses, whether it was, outdoor dining, shields, disinfecting equipment. So that money is going to be passed out actually next week. And I don't know if you saw it, but the New York Times did a story about how local suburban businesses were doing better, sadly, than the big urban businesses. And the owner of our own Rothman's men's clothing store was mentioned, and he particularly talked about the incredible support he was getting from his home community, which was just really nice. I think we're so lucky to live in a community of people with such concern and generosity. And honestly, it's become so wonderfully contagious, continuing with the movie theater. And finally, but extremely important, the trustees and I will be meeting with the President Carey of Iona and President Nunez of Concordia early next week. I know everybody's first reaction was profound sadness at losing a partner and a friend that has been in this village for 140 years. But all of us in government, I know I can speak for everyone, are determined to move forward in collaboration and in partnership in a really positive spirit. And first about learn of their plans and desires, and then share with them the needs and concerns and desires of the Bronxville community. I really believe it can be an exciting partnership. And those are my comments. And then we're so grateful to have Ellen Edwards, chairman of the Green Committee, and Carol Upshur, a integral part of that committee, to give us a little presentation. The Green Committee is so active. It's never been this active in the village. And my fellow trustees and I wanted you, frankly, to share with the community all that you are doing. So first of all, Ellen and Carol, thank you for doing so much. And please go ahead and share with our audience what's going on with the Green Committee.
Okay. Well, thank you all. And I also wanted to introduce Maria Turjanian, who's also become a really integral part of the Green Committee. She's working really, really closely with me and putting in lots of hours. So, and she's a mom, she has kids in the school. So this is the outreach we've been wanting for a really long time. So this is really terrific. So Jim, if you want to bring up my PowerPoint. Yeah.
Sure, give me 1 second.
Sure. Yeah, I put together a little PowerPoint so you can look at that instead of me, and it will reiterate what I'm talking about. Well, I can start talking while he's doing that. The Green Committee has come a long way since I became chair 2 years ago, while continuing the excellent program already in place, namely Take Back Day and the Giving Garden. The Green Committee has been laying the foundation for a more significant outreach. We initiated regular monthly meetings. We began a detailed minutes of those meetings. We grew the distribution list to 40 people, and we began investigating the possibility of a food scrap recycling program. And we presented that plan to the trustees in March of 2020 at their trustees meeting. Then the ensuing pandemic caused the cancellation of many of our spring plans. And instead, we focused our energy on publishing 11 articles in my hometown, Bronxville. And we revamped our pages of the village website and started Facebook and Instagram pages. But the real transformation began last fall when we set up a table at the farmers market, and 160 families signed up for the food scrap recycling program. There we go. Even more important, volunteers came forward, especially moms with kids in the school who are able to reach into the heart of the community. Even now, every week or so, Mary Marvin connects me with a new volunteer. I speak to each of them, either in person or on the phone, to determine their areas of interest and how they might best contribute. With so many potential projects and many more volunteers, we saw a need to restructure the Green Committee. We now have 7 subcommittees under the Green Committee umbrella, and each subcommittee focuses on a different aspect of our mission to inform and engage residents about sustainable practices. So the next slide, please, Jim. Great. The Community Engagement Committee. Many new volunteers tell me that until recently, they had never heard of the Green Committee. So our top priority is to find ways to communicate more effectively with residents, tailoring our message to their busy lives and creating ways for them to easily participate. We are creating a new interactive website that will allow people to sign up for our programs and events. We plan to publish shorter articles more frequently in my hometown, Bronxville. And we've created a rallying cry, strong and sustainable, protecting what we love. Next slide. The Giving Garden and Take Back Day now have dedicated committee members who will work to keep these programs vibrant and successful. We don't know yet whether we'll be able to invite volunteers back into the Giving Garden this spring, but we do have a farmer in place. And we're considering potential new vendors for Take Back Day. Next slide. Food Scrap Recycling Committee. We're looking forward to the day when the construction of the DPW is complete and the village is able to set up a drop-off site on Palumbo Place. In Stephen Shallow, the Green Committee now has a dedicated liaison with the village. We will work closely with Stephen once we're able to take the next steps. The Green Committee's role.
I'm in a meeting. I can't talk now. I'm in a meeting. Sorry.
The Green Committee's role will be threefold: to help launch the program and distribute starter kits, to recruit participants, and to stand by the bins at the drop-off site for the first few months to make sure residents are using them correctly. There's a lot of enthusiasm in town for this program. Next slide. Pollinator Pathways Committee. This popular new group started last November when Hastings Pollinator Pathway members contacted us through Mary Marvin. Pollinator Pathway committees throughout Westchester actively promote healthy landscaping practices and the planting of native species. The goal is to link up native plant gardens to form pathways that pollinators, birds, and insects can follow in the search for habitat and food. One reason that bird, bee, butterfly, and insect populations across the country are plummeting is because our traditional landscaping, consisting of lawn and ornamental plants imported from other countries, does not provide the food and habitat they need. Yet scientists tell us that humans cannot survive without these populations, which help sustain the global natural systems necessary for all life. This understanding has big implications for our long-held beliefs about landscaping. The Pollinator Pathway Committee hopes to inform and inspire residents to try some native plants in their gardens and watch them come alive as never before, with baby birds and amazing insects and gorgeous moths and butterflies. The Pollinator Pathway Committee is working on our own pages within the Green Committee's new website, which will include an interactive map. We've spoken with people associated with local public green spaces, and we're investigating the possibility of projects involving students from the Bronxville School. Next slide. The Clean Energy Committee. New York State and Sustainable Westchester offer many programs that help residents make the switch to clean energy. The Green Committee can do a lot to inform residents about these programs and encourage them to sign up. Meanwhile, we applaud the trustees' efforts to revise the village's current solar panel ordinance, and we will continue to learn about these other programs which the village might consider for adoption and send reports about them to the mayor. Next slide. The Climate Smart Community Program is a well-defined New York State program intended to assist municipalities in addressing climate change by identifying concrete steps they can take within a specified framework. 3 mandatory steps are required for Bronxville to register for the program. The trustees must pass a resolution committing the village to the program. They must set up a climate smart task force consisting of volunteers and community government leaders that will work together to complete specific actions. And they must identify one person to act as a climate smart coordinator between the task force and the village government. Once New York State confirms that New York has taken all 3 steps, we will be officially registered as a climate smart community. From that point, we can choose among the 100 action steps that will win us 120 points required for bronze certification. Next slide. In New York State, 321 municipalities are registered as climate smart communities. 31 of the 48 municipalities in Westchester are registered. 7 of them, including Yonkers and Mamaroneck, have earned bronze certification, and 2, Hastings and Croton, have reached silver certification. Next slide. There are many benefits to Bronxville's becoming a climate smart community. Perhaps most important, we will receive better scores on grant applications, giving us access to substantial funding. For example, the village might get grant money to buy EV vehicles for the village. And such funding can really help assist us as we take the action steps in the program. We'll also have a well-defined, robust framework around which to organize, prioritize, and highlight our efforts to lower greenhouse gas emissions and promote sustainability. We'll gain access to resources, training, tools, and expert guidance provided by the state. We'll save money through greater efficiencies. We'll achieve greater energy independence and security. We'll enjoy cleaner air, soil, and water, and will reduce the flood risks that we are so prone to. We'll get credit for steps we've already taken, and Bronxville has taken many, many steps in this area. And we'll strengthen community bonds as we work with residents toward these goals. This program does require work from everybody, but it's manageable, and we can set our own pace as we take on the tasks. Next slide. Finally, the Community Leadership and Climate Protection Act is the law of the land in New York State. It sets extremely ambitious goals in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and making the transition to renewable energy. Advisory committees are now meeting to determine exactly how we will meet these goals. And I'm told that the Department of Conservation will have the authority to enforce whatever legal framework eventually emerges. By working now to earn points through the Climate Smart Communities program, Bronxville will be best positioned for whatever new legislation comes out of Albany. It is the Green Committee's intention that the work of all of its subcommittees will contribute in some way toward the action steps required for bronze certification. We're thrilled for the opportunity to work with Mary, Jim, the trustees, and village staff on this program. The actions we take will make a quantifiable difference in lowering our greenhouse gas emissions and leading us toward a sustainable future. Next slide. In summary, these are the goals of the Green Committee for 2021. We will create and launch a new website and set up a new data management system. We'll adopt a plan for publishing regular articles in my hometown Bronxville, as many as 2 a month, and we intend to make them shorter and include easy action steps for people to take. We will continue to post on Facebook and Instagram twice a week. We will produce and donate a summer's worth of vegetables at the Giving Garden.
Sorry.
We hope to hold 2 Take Back Day events in June and November, and we hope the village will launch the food scrap recycling program. The Pollinator Pathway Committee will set up a website with an interactive map, run a campaign to encourage residents to add native plants to their gardens, and hold 1 or 2 specific projects or events, one of which we hope will be with the school. We hope the trustees will adopt a new solar panel ordinance sometime this year. If they do, we'll make sure residents know about it. We'll also promote the community solar program. And we hope to work with the village to register Bronxville as a climate smart community, to pass a resolution, form a task force, and identify a coordinator with the village. And then we hope to begin to accumulate points toward bronze certification. Next slide. Climate change poses an enormous challenge to all mankind. Here in Bronxville, we can follow the dictate, think globally, act locally. There's so much we can do. Residents of Bronxville love their community and don't want it to change. And there is a lot to love about this 1 square mile. But the Green Committee also envisions ways in which it can be even better. Bronxville can be healthier if the air is cleaner because kids are walking to school, because electric cars have replaced idling gas guzzlers, because quieter, cleaner electric leaf blowers have replaced noisy, dirty, gas-powered blowers. Bronxville can be healthier if the landscape supports all life, because yards are free of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, because native plants provide food for baby birds that delight us, and because we allow our yards to be a little more natural. They're not just aesthetically pleasing, but also contributing to biodiversity. Bronxville can also be healthier if residents are living more sustainably, because families' food scraps are being turned into rich compost,
My
a source
God,
of all healthy plants.
that's
Because families think twice before acquiring another item that they might not really need. Because support for community solar has created a reliable market for solar energy that's become a significant energy source in New York State. And because homes are being retrofitted with heat pumps and geothermal, making them quieter, more comfortable, and powered by clean, renewable energy.
but it's
Last slide. Such changes would be subtle to all outward appearances. Many would be nearly invisible, and Bronxville would appear very similar to the town we know and love today. Yet the transformation would be profound. If we can envision this new Bronxville, we can build it. We'll be healthier, happier, more resilient. We'll be more connected to each other and to this plot of earth we call home. In recent months, I've learned that many, many Bronxville residents really do want to make their lives more sustainable. They're ready to join the village and the Green Committee in our efforts to lead Bronxville to a healthy, sustainable future. We're strong and sustainable, protecting what we love. Well, thanks, Jim, for running that. And I'll be happy to open it up for questions and just general discussion.
First of all, Ellen, that was amazing. That was so succinct and complete. And Jim and I and Stephen have been involved with your group, and it's amazing what you have accomplished in the past 2 years. And I think if we can get that PowerPoint out to as many people as possible, maybe as a separate recording, it would be absolutely terrific. So
Sure.
thank you for really just a perfect presentation.
Okay.
Trustees, any questions, thoughts?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Helen.
Thank you so much. I mean, your committee is really covering a lot of wonderful ground, and I agree with you. There's so much interest in the community, to being more sustainable and having a greener future. One of the things that we've been looking at is, you mentioned it, the passing a ban on gas-powered leaf blowers.
Mhm.
And I just wondered, how much your committee or one of the subcommittees has looked into that, or looked at the experience of some of the other communities. We know Larchmont has passed one. Just
We've
wondering what your take is on that.
Yeah, we've really, one woman, Judith McNatt, has sort of taken this on as her project, and she's asked the local leaf blower in her neighborhood, who told her that he claimed that the electric ones weren't strong enough. Also, she was asking, why are you blowing leaves in January when there are no leaves? And he told her that some residents had actually requested it. They were going to have visitors and they wanted a perfect lawn. So I think part of that, there's sort of twofold thing going on. She also spoke to the woman in Larchmont. I don't remember her name, but somebody who had helped pass that ban.
Mhm.
And we asked about, did you get community involvement before? And they said no, they just passed it. And now they're getting the community used to it. And she did admit that was maybe one thing they would have done differently if they could do it over, that maybe they would have gotten more feedback from the community first. I didn't get too much input on, I've read that, in fact, there was just something today in the League of Conservation Voters that was talking about salt that we put down for the snow, but also said that there are powerful leaf blowers out there. You just have to buy them. And if you're really at a point where you really can't buy them, that the EPA has recommended certain ones that aren't quite as polluting as other ones are. But I do think that, they may not make strong, you have to have a powerful one for a commercial landscaper in order for them to be happy with it. I think a lot of leaf blowers are made with individual residential homes involved, where you don't need a powerful one. But I do understand that they are out there, and they just have to do the research to find them. So that's as far as we've gotten. I think there's more we could investigate.
Super, thank you.
Ellen, this is Mary Behrens.
Sure.
How many people in total are on the Green Committee? And if village residents are interested in joining up, is there a process of applying, or?
No, I really don't know how many. I haven't counted. I think what happened is, when we were signing up people for the food scrap committee, a lot of people were particularly interested in that. And so I have a lot of those people sort of on hold. And I know that when that program gets off the ground, they're going to be willing to come forward and help us distribute the starter kits and stand by the bins and help us promote the program. And there's probably 10 people that alone there. But we also had kids from the school that were standing at the table, our table at the farmers market, and they were great. I had so much fun with them. So once we get going, I would love to be able to draw from that. we just, Charles Vanterhoven, who a couple months ago presented, he's from the high school. He presented to the Green Committee he has a group of guys that he works with who are, we are collecting cell phones and laptops and reconfiguring them and selling them and then giving the money to buy laptops to underserved communities. He's offered to now be a liaison between the Green Committee and the school. So I really, with his mother's help and him doing it, we're going to meet this week to sort of hash out how that might work and some ideas he has. But I think that would be really that's another really important step that we've been wanting for a long time to get there. Just in passing, I'll also note that Maria's working with Charles' mom, and possibly some other people will step forward too. And they've approached the school about starting a recycling and composting program there. So that's going to take some time, but and it's sort of separate from what we're doing. But that's also something we've long been wanting for the village.
Thank you.
And Ellen, I just have to say, when I go on your meetings, you have at least a dozen really committed, serious followers. And then others, as you said, who have joined those various committees, like have found their personal interest. I mean, you've really, gathered a small army here for us. So.
Well, it's been great. I was just so thrilled in the fall when they really started coming forward for the first time. And Mary sent me some really terrific people too. So, and I honestly, to answer your previous question, I don't have any requirements. I just find out what they're interested in and try to get them involved. And that's a challenge sometimes. They have these vague interests, but it's matching up their interests with a particular project, that is sometimes difficult. And perhaps more so during COVID when we can't really have, in-person projects as much as possible, as we will eventually.
I think one of the goals of of kind of updating the website and everything is to enable people to sign up. So I think that will also over time facilitate growing ways of people being able to participate in the activities.
She has a background in marketing. She's been instrumental in that. And I think she brings a lot of really great ideas of making things quick and simple and sign up here. And that's what people in Bronxville like, as that their favorite phrase, one and done. So we're going to make it as easy as possible for people. Sure, Bill?
Yeah, Ms. Edward, first of all, again, thank you for a fantastic presentation. I read the slides beforehand that Jim had circulated, but they were that much better with you walking us through them. It was just great. And I have so many questions and follow-ups I could have, but I want to try to confine my comments just a couple. First of all, if you could just describe a little bit more what the basics are of the food scrap recycling program. And then I have sort of a general question or comment about solar panels and sort of community engagement. If you could just sort of talk through the food scrap program, which I've heard a lot about. I'd love to just hear what the scope is and how it would work in general.
Yeah. Sure. We worked with two people from Scarsdale who started this whole thing in Westchester, and it's now spread to at least half the communities in Westchester, Michelle Sterling and Ron Schulhoff. And they created a model that we're following. And basically, people collect their food scraps. We offer them a starter kit, which consists of a countertop pail and some compostable liner bags. And then they collect any kind of food goes in there, any kind, bones and shells, as well as some paper products, as long as they don't have chemicals on them, but like used tissues, used paper towels, wax paper, parchment paper, all that can go in there. And then you get a slightly larger pail where you can transfer from the countertop pail. So you collect it all week. And the idea is once a week, you go to the drop-off site, which would be at the DPW on Palumbo. And there you have 64-gallon size, bins with signage, big signage. People drop them off. And then the village, with the help of the county, pays for hauling to a commercial composter upstate. And because it's a commercial composter, we're able to compost far more than you can in a backyard composting situation. And because they raise the heat basically, so that it really, everything breaks down very, very quickly. And I'm told in 3 months, this stuff is dirt. It is really beautiful soil. And
Basically, the idea is the resident would sort of store it presumably outside their home, and once a week sort of empty that bucket at a village central drop-off facility.
right. I mean, you could,
Gotcha.
I mean, the transfer bin is not that big. You could easily keep it in your garage, even in a closet. And I'm told that there's just no smells or leaks. These are really, they did research on all these bins, you know, ad infinitum, and picked the very best ones. And they've been time tested in the Scarsdale and all these other towns. So they're really, really great bins. And then you just you bring it over once a week, basically.
No, terrific. That's very helpful. A second question or / suggestion is there any kind of coordinating committee amongst the various green groups in the village, you know, the Bronxville Beautification Committee, the Nature?
No, we've reached out to them a little bit and haven't, you know, we've gotten some response, but we don't have a close association with them. We'd love to work more closely with them, especially like Boulder Ledge, I know has raised money for trees in the past. And we would
Right.
love to, you know, both promote their efforts, but also work with them and maybe expanding that. So we're working on that. You know, we just haven't, you know, made a really strong connection with those groups yet. We had worked last spring, we were gonna co-sponsor a speaking event. And we'd worked with the working gardeners in Boulder Ledge and the Beautification Council to do that. So they were all going to be mentioned in our promotion, and then the whole thing had to get canceled last spring.
Well, send me your email. I think my email is on the village website, because I'd like to definitely get you in touch with the Nature Preserve folks, because
Oh yeah, we've talked to them. I've talked to Joe.
Good.
Yeah, and he mentioned your name actually. And then we had a wonderful walkabout with Ben Lance, who's an amazing guy, and he's done so much amazing work there. So, you know, that may be down the road, but eventually we would love to partner with them in some way.
Well, just get with your Pollinators Pathways Committee. I mean, the village has that big chunk of land, and, you know, it would be so easy, it seems, to sort of plant, you know, more Asclepias and other things throughout there. And then just my final comment, because I know other trustees may have questions. You know, on the zoning front, having gone through much of that process myself in the past 2 years, you know, to me, the zoning issues with respect to solar, you know, have a lot to do with technology, because I'm certain that technology continues to improve year by year, if not month by month, in terms of having other ways of having solar technology incorporated on structures other than panels. So I would just say, when you get some people who are really sort of willing to put in some technology legwork on that, I mean, I don't mean to speak for the mayor or anyone else, but I think the reason why we didn't look at that in the last round of zoning was really because we didn't have people who had invested the technology or had the technological expertise to sort of make proposals that balance aesthetics with the desire to have more green.
Right.
But I certainly share your desire to do more, but hopefully through some people who can provide some good technical expertise that the people involved in zoning last time around didn't have.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I know Carol had started to look into that, and, you know, we didn't get too far. I don't know if you want to say anything, Carol, about what you did find.
Yeah, there actually is amazing, because I just spent a few hours looking into it. There are something like a dozen shingle companies now, roofing companies, that provide solar shingles and, you know, roof systems. And if anyone needs a new roof, they're only marginally more expensive than replacing your roof. And so I was amazed at how many options there are that are, photovoltaic roof systems now. And they're not panels, so they're slightly different. They don't stick up. They still look a little different, but some of them are designed to look like those really neat Vermont metal roofs, that you can have different colors. Some of them, there's even a Tesla version, believe it or not, that blends panels. And of course, that's the most expensive. And a lot of the reviewers say not necessary. You don't need it unless you want, the esteem of having a Tesla roof. But so anyway, I was just amazed at how many options there are out there currently for any homeowner. Again, and there would have to be a decision, obviously, in terms of planning and zoning. They do look a little bit different, but they're integrated as roof shingles, basically. So I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, it's a ripe subject. I'll just say that from my many years on the zoning board, every time a solar panel review came up, there would always be a neighbor objection. I think that was partly because of the poor technology. So it's an issue which has some sensitivities in the community, but it's certainly ripe for someone really digging in and seeing what we can do, and to have a solar regulation that's sort of based on 2021 technology rather than
Right.
2001 technology.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at also a lot of the local towns and their planning board discussions and things like that. And, I think basically it's really the will of the community. And, a lot of the communities, for example, they're very clear about you don't cut down trees and things like that. But this whole issue about exposures and front and back and all that kind of stuff, a lot of communities have just said, we need to do it. So, but there are great new technologies as well. So if there's a way to get someone to present to the planning board or to the trustees about that, maybe we can work on that if you're interested.
Perfect. Any other questions for our Green Committee representatives? Okay, seeing none, just thank you so very much for your efforts, your vision, and our partnership. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
We very much appreciate the partnership too, and look forward to working even more closely.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we have a second presentation. It's from our Deputy Mayor. It's an update on the work of the Police Community Relations Committee. And I have to say, Bob, this was some heavy lifting from, the formation of the committee, making it as totally diverse and inclusive as possible. It was a very complex charge, a mission from the governor with a number of issues and also a firm deadline. So thank you. Your report is amazing. And I'd love you to share it with the community.
Oh, thank you, Mary. And Ellen, the Greens Committee, thank you very much. That was really appreciate the energy and enthusiasm. And I think there's, with Bill, your questions about solar, there's a lot to do there. And so that'll be really exciting to try to kind of get ahead of the state of the art in terms of the technology and the zoning. With respect to the Police Community Relations Committee, in June of last year, the governor passed Executive Order 203, which required all communities, cities, towns, villages within the state of New York that have police departments to undertake reviews of their police departments. The mayor, in consultation with the village trustees, created a committee of 26 people that represented people across all facets of the village. So that's students, residents, merchants who are residents, merchants who are not residents, all clergy members, 3 members of the police department, students from the high school, and also members of the judiciary. We had an initial kickoff meeting in October. We did that one live at the library on October 19th. And in that meeting, the police department with Chief Satriali, Lieutenant Bunyan, and Sergeant DeYoung provided a overview, history of the police department, an overview of the governance structure, the command structure, training protocols, history of use of force, breakdown of the staffing, and et cetera. That was put on the village website. The purpose of that meeting was to provide really a thorough background of information to all of the committee members. We subsequently held 2 public input sessions on November 10th and November 17th. Those were also recorded. We had, following the completion of this public input process, we had 3 subsequent meetings. So we've had a total of 6 meetings, one on December 1st, January 6th, and most recently, January 21st. The purpose of those last 3 meetings were to review the findings of this inquiry process. We had the police department present for Q&A with our committee members. And then we had several sessions without the police department membership present so that we could have just guarantee honest, open communication. We've completed that process, and we have submitted to the village trustees a document that's a draft that's dated February 5th that has a summary of our background and process, a summary of our findings, a summary of our recommendations. This can be found on the village website, and we are inviting the public to submit comments via email to us. There's email addresses there. And then the next step of the process will be to present this to the village trustees for adoption at the March meeting. And then it has to be adopted by the village trustees and then submitted to the state prior to April 1st. So a few of our findings that I'd say that one of the key findings here was that the actual process of going through and sort of diving into the history and present circumstances of the police department was in and of itself a very, very valuable and enlightening exercise, and one that we want to keep this sort of process of inquiry and review alive going into the future. Some of the other findings that the police department has a demographic profile that's more diverse with respect to race and gender than many of the surrounding communities. Based on the data that was available and reviewed, there was no evidence found of systemic racial bias in the police department's application and enforcement of the law. Also, both historically and recently, we found no evidence to suggest excessive use of force by the police department. And then kind of lastly, it became clear that the police department and the village government can do a better job in informing the community about the roles our police play, the police training and activity. So we really are going to focus, part of the big focus of our recommendations, which you can see, are enhancing communication on an ongoing basis. Number of our recommendations, number 1, to increase transparency and disclosure by the police department. This will involve publishing history of statistics on our website. We will have an annual review by the police department. We will have use of force statistics, etc. We will be implementing, the village will be implementing via a third party, to have a survey on policing the village. That's something that we've kicked off that effort in terms of researching it and finding the best way to prepare and present a high quality survey process. In terms of officer training, we're asking the police department to emphasize less lethal training through all members of the police force, as well as de-escalation training and implicit racial bias training. So all of that can be found in on the document on the village website, and also there's a list of all of the committee members there. The committee members did a really impressive job. We met 6 times. Some of these meetings were really long. They dealt with some difficult questions, some painful questions, but it was very rewarding to see this come together and see the intent of our police officers, our high school students, our clergy, all really pitching in with one goal in mind, is to improve the bond between our community and our police force. So my great gratitude is extended to every person on that committee. And we're also committed to not making this just completing and dotting the I's and crossing the T's to fulfill a government mandate. We are committed to forming a PCRC-like committee to work into the future on an evergreen basis, working with the police department and village government to continue this process of review and inquiry into the future. So, Mayor, that's the end of my report.
So, Deputy Mayor, after someone reads this report and perhaps has a comment, could you just reiterate how the public at large can share their thoughts between now and the proposed ratification date?
Yes, so there is an email on the website that's a PCRC email on the website. You can send it to that. You can send it to Jim Palmer's email as well. Jim and I are working on this on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, and again, thank you for your incredible efforts on this.
It's been a real pleasure to get to know people in the community that I previously had not, and to see the depth of commitment to improving this community and keeping it the place it is, the special place it is. And thanks to the police department for doing an outstanding job at presenting materials and responding to inquiry and responding to difficult questions as well.
Thank you, Bob. All right, we now move to Mr. Palmer for the village administrator's report.
Only items I just wanted to mention, Mayor, is really more of a reminder that for any merchants that might be viewing the program on our cable channel, that they are reminded to maintain their sidewalks in the downtown. So for anyone that asks, and occasionally residents do ask me, the merchants and the property owners, excuse me, are responsible for maintaining the sidewalks abutting their place of business. And the code actually references that they're supposed to clear their sidewalks in the morning and also again in the afternoon. And then residents are required to clear their sidewalks of snow and ice within 12 hours after an event. So we just ask that residents try to do the best that they can. So I just wanted to mention that. And then also just wanted to mention that while Dr. David Goldberg could not join us this evening from Lawrence Hospital, he is their expert on infectious diseases. And we're working to find a time this week when he could update the community on COVID-19 and the status of vaccinations and so forth. So
Okay, thank you, Jim. The next is approval of our minutes from our January 11th regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second by Mary Behrens? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Last month, we packed a huge agenda, so this month we have a fairly short one. Two of the resolutions have to do with taxes. So Mr. Palmer, do you want to just to read about our tax situation?
Sure, Mayor, and this is really, we can combine both of these into one resolution. One is the statement of uncollected taxes, and then the second item is simply approving the resolution stating the date of the village's tax lien sale. So this is generally a customary item that we do this time of the year. We report on the collected taxes that have not been collected to date, following the village's collection cycle of first payments due in June and the second payment in December. So what's provided to you is currently a list of the uncollected to date. But again, over the course of the next few weeks, and following letters that we send out to all those property owners, usually that list is significantly reduced to a few property owners. Nonetheless, I am requesting that you authorize a lien sale and the resolution that's before you, with the lien sale being dated the 11th day of March 2021. And as I said, as we get closer to the notification date, we'll do an updated list, but you have a list of what's outstanding to date. The only other item, following a comment that I received from Trustee Fredericks, is that I will add in the resolution that any questions can be referred to our treasurer, Lori Voss, and her phone number. And I'll also clarify that the lien sale itself will actually take place in the village's large boardroom. The only other item I would reference in what I had circulated to you earlier this afternoon is that following legislation that was adopted by the legislature and signed by the governor at the end of December. In those instances, when a property owner who has unpaid taxes is able to demonstrate a financial hardship due to COVID-19, they do have the ability to apply for a stay, if you will, of that lien date up to May 1st, I believe it is at this point in time, Jim. So I'm working with Jim's office to clarify a wording that would be included in the letters that we'll send out to the impacted property owners this week.
Jim, have you noticed that there are more or a higher number of tax liens this year because of that? Because of COVID and related issues?
You know what? I actually went back several years, and while it's the number is higher than last year, we've had this amount outstanding in the past. So actually, given the circumstances, so no, I don't think it's higher than last year, but not exceptional.
But Jim, in fact, thanks to Lori, because I had the same question, Helen. It's 1.3 million this year, 950,000 last year, but 1.5 million in 2019. So it's I'm not sure what we can sort of get out of that. I just thought it was interesting. That's how the numbers went. So
and of course, something that you all know that we do now is obviously with electronic options, we do try to send out a lot more reminders to property owners, since people aren't always thinking about when tax deadlines are approaching. So we send those out, and I think that helps.
Mary.
When we have, so let's say in 2019, we had 1.5 million outstanding. We have 1.3 now. What's the kind of general experience as to what volume actually gets sold at the auction?
Honestly, it's about a handful of properties. So
Right.
at the end of the day, it'll be down to 3, maybe 5 properties.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And Jim, this is Mary. How many people will be bidding on those 3 to 5 properties? Is it a handful or is it just the same regulars that come every year?
Generally speaking, same regulars, and it's usually about 3.
3. And then,
We've always had, and I think we're all proud of it, that, you know, we call people, we reach out. We are not looking for village revenue from penalty of taxes. So we honestly do our best to remind people, to help people, because the New York State penalties are definite. We have, there's no discretion, and they're quite severe, I think. So so we're just there to help our fellow residents. So I just need a motion.
Mary.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
Sorry, Jim, you had mentioned that we have a rule that we have to advertise, or a statute that we have to advertise in low HUD regarding that. Can you just explain 3 weeks and when do we start that?
Sure. So the process will be that we'll finalize a letter to all the homeowners, to all the property owners, send those out before the end of the week, post the lien sale in the official newspaper, and we do that on multiple occasions, 3 occasions, and we'll provide updated lists with that formal notice indicating when the lien sale is. The letter will also just state what the interest, the letter to the property owners would just state what the interest rate is, et cetera, if they continue to not pay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then can I have a motion combining the reconciliation, tax warrant, and collection with the tax lien sale to go forward? Could someone move this?
I'll move it.
Okay, and Helen will second it. And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, and we have one more resolution, should you want to adopt it tonight. I don't know, after that incredible presentation by the Green Committee, my only thought is I want to be a gold community, Ellen. I don't want to be a bronze or a silver.
Very competitive.
Are all my fellow trustees ready to move on the climate smart communities resolution?
Can I just ask a question about this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so right now, these are these 10 elements. They seem to be sort of qualitative. Do they involve any specific mandates right away, or is it more like it just the general, we agree to these general elements?
You agree to the general elements. They list 100 action steps you can take in various and divide them by these elements. And each one wins different amounts of points.
Yeah.
And then they have the 3 steps, that I described tonight are the mandatory ones. They have priority steps, which I remember had to do with setting greenhouse gas benchmarks for both the village as a whole, and then the local government and all of their property and vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, there were 4 of them, and then also setting climate action plans for both the village as a whole and the government as a whole. So those were, considered priority steps. Again, they outline exactly what those are, because that's pretty vague, but they outline exactly what those.
Doing them gets you points.
Yes, and those priority steps get more points because they consider them more important.
But the more you do, the better off you are in fulfilling the pledge and getting the points and becoming gold.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think they just want you to spread them out around these 10. I'm not sure that you have to do all 10. I think
Okay.
you have to pledge to try to, but I believe that I don't know if it's 4 out of 10 that you have to or something like that.
I did look at the New York State website on the climate smart communities, which provides a lot of additional
Right.
detail. Not quite as succinctly as you provided it, Alan, but a lot of material on the website. And I think the only 2 mandates for the village that I saw were the creation of a climate smart communities task force
Right.
and the designation of a coordinator, which could be a village employee, board member, or a volunteer. And so I think, the trustees may want to discuss and they get input, certainly from you, Mayor Marvin, about, who the coordinator would be and what the structure of a task force would be, because I would imagine that that's something within the village's prerogative to set forth the task force. But it looked to me, in answer to your question, Helen, that we could go ahead and adapt the resolution, recognizing that there's some administrative implementing things that would need to be done, but that there were no other mandates. And I was delighted to hear you say, Ellen, in your presentation that the village could get credit for things it may have already done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I thought, gee, should we start at a handicap? Because we're already a pretty green place, but it's good if we can already get some points for things we've already done.
And we're sure about that we'll get points for things that we've
Yes.
already, it's not only going
Yeah.
forward.
We're not sure how far back you can go. For example, I know that you put geothermal in Village Hall, and that was more than 10 years ago. I
Right.
don't know if it will go back that far, but we'll try,
Yeah.
why not?
So trustees, are you ready to vote tonight on the Smarter Community Pledge?
I am, and I would just notice, in addition to my looking at the website, which all seemed to be in order, I did look at the list of other communities, and it included places like Scarsdale and Pelham, and as Alan said, 31 total communities in Westchester. As well as some larger communities, which I thought was very interesting: New Rochelle, White Plains, and Yonkers, which has got to be, I guess, who's missing there? I guess Mount Vernon isn't in there, but it seemed like, a lot of people are doing this, and if all these other people are doing it, I don't see why, with all the spirit that Alan's Green Committee and others have marshaled, why we can't at least aspire to do something. I like your go for the gold approach, Mary.
Yeah. I didn't like winning the bronze medal somehow. I just, let's go for the gold. Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Does Jim Stout have any opinion on this, one way or the other, from a legal point of view?
And no, everything I've heard so far and what Trustee Fredericks has said is in accord with my understanding.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good with going ahead.
Oh, Mary, Trustee Barnes, go ahead. Okay. Trustee Fredericks, I'm going to ask you to move the resolution.
Okay, well then I will move the resolution that's in our board package to make the Village of Bronxville a climate smart community.
And who would like to second it?
I would like to second it.
All right, Mary Barons will second it. And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And thank you, Green Committee, for galvanizing us, is what you did. So thank you all. And Maria, I see you there. Thank you for being on the call tonight too. So
oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been great working with Ellen and being part of this committee and being involved in everything that's going on in town. So I look forward to doing a lot more with you and Ellen and the group.
Maria, what's the Instagram account if people want to follow in the village?
Oh, it's Beville, BVILLE Green Committee.
Thank you.
So yeah, we have a lot more followers on Instagram than we do on Facebook.
That seems to be
So,
Yeah, yeah.
we
All
hope
right.
to post about this tomorrow. So
Yeah.
thank you all.
Thank you. That is the end of our official business. Trustees, before I open it up for resident comment, any trustee have yes, Mr. Fredericks.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, since I see Chief Satriali on the call, and I saw Officer or Sergeant DeYoung, who I think is still on, at least by phone, if not by video. I just wanted to re-echo some of the comments that Bob Underhill made earlier, which was I found it personally very, very helpful to hear the presentations, at least some of them, that the chief and the sergeant made, as well as Lieutenant Bunyan. In addition to being informative, I thought they were just highly professional and really reflected a degree of seriousness from the representatives of the police department in terms of presenting information and again, just from a perspective of being informative, extremely helpful. And I think they reflected greatly on the department. And again, just from seeing Bob Underhill try to manage this process, I won't say try to manage the process, he has managed the process superbly. And, you know, I just want to echo all the comments that you made, Mayor, in terms of the work that Bob has done. And I think that ultimately the hallmark of a great organization or department is its willingness not to rest on its laurels, but to always say, okay, we got a 99 or whatever grade it can be on this test, but you know, how do we get 100 next time? And that is, again, I think a hallmark of the professionalism that I saw demonstrated in the process. And, you know, again, no human organization is perfect, but I've just been very, very impressed.
Thank you, Trustee Fred.
Bill,
Trustee
thank you
Barron.
for that. And just I'll add that Bill, you hit the nail on the head. I learned a lot about, I knew a lot about the force when I went into this, and I came out more impressed than before. And particularly, I was impressed by the willingness of the leadership of the police force to listen and contribute and be really open to new ideas. And that's really the hallmark of a great organization, whether it's Google, it's Apple, or a police force. If you're going to be good, you have to listen, and you have to understand that the environment is always changing and you have to adapt. So thank you for those comments, Bill, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I just want to add one other thing to the list of recommendations, which really struck me when I was listening to some of the presentations. Look, all over America, there are increasing problems with mental health problems and folks who should be getting help who are not getting help, but who, for whatever circumstance, are sort of on the streets of communities in the country. And I hadn't really focused on it, but the challenges that poses for us as a village and for our police officers, because we're a small town and we don't have our own mental health coordinators, and some of the discussion about having sort of more broader community alliances with other jurisdictions, which may have specialized health to support our own department. I thought that was very interesting and very, very important. And that while we're trying to do some things in the village, I recognize that the committee also is identifying some things where, you know, we may have to look for help outside the village to do what we do within our square mile better. But again, I just commend the committee for the thoroughness of its examinations and the thoroughness of its proposals.
Thank you. Trustee Barons.
On a separate topic, I'd just like to thank the village for the cleaning of the snow plowing of the roads in the last two
Yeah.
storms. I thought they did an amazing job. I've been downtown numerous times and around town, and the roads are clean promptly, and it was not an easy feat this last week. So, and we were a bit rusty, not having had a snowstorm in quite some time. So 2 back-to-back was quite a feat for our guys, and they rose to the occasion as we expected them to do. But it's really nice to live in a town where you can count on the roads and the sidewalks in the town, well, in the snow, in the parking spots, all to be clear. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Any other trustee comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll open it up to any village resident who would like to make a comment on any topic.
I would. Hello, can you hear me?
Could you identify yourself?
Good evening. My name is Hugh McKiernan and I live at 21 Alden Place.
Okay.
You probably know that Alden Place has about 100 units. We're a diverse community of co-ops and rentals. And for the record, I'd like to state that as a resident of Alden Place, I have been quite dismayed at the lack of oversight of the 8 Alden Place construction by both the village of Bronxville and the city of Mount Vernon. This failure of jurisdictional government does not inspire confidence regarding the safety and well-being of the residents of Alden Place. I would ask you to look into this matter as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And sir, we have been trying. The difficulty is the entire development is in the city of Mount Vernon. So our jurisdiction is legally not only limited, it's non-existent. But we have been meeting with people to see if there is any way, if there's any encroachment by this Mount Vernon development in any way that the village would have a role, because I know a great deal about the project. I totally understand, and frankly, I completely sympathize with what you're going through over there. So it is on our radar, and we're stuck with some major jurisdictional issues, quite frankly. But thank you, and we will keep at it.
Thank you.
Any other resident? Okay, seeing none, any non-resident who's on the call who would like to comment on any topic?
Hello, this is Neil McInerney. I am commenting on behalf of Legislator Walter's office. I just want to forward my thanks to Ellen for her excellent, I'm not sure she's still on the call, but thank her for her excellent presentation, and just to reaffirm Legislator Walter's support for the environmental resolution that was just passed. She would be here. Unfortunately, she has board business tonight, but thanks to everybody involved, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Any other person in our audience who would like to make a comment? Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Palmer, what is the date of our next meeting so I can tell our audience before we adjourn?
March 8th.
All right, so I need a motion to adjourn the February 8th meeting and meet again on March 8th. Do I have? So moved by the deputy mayor, second by trustee Knapp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and no more snow, okay?
Yeah.
That we should have had a resolution to that effect.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yes, thank you all and good night.
Good night. Thank you, Jim Palmer. Thank you, Jim Stout.
Yep.
Yes,
Good night,
thank
all.
you.